All right, we have another caller. It looks like Miranda. You are on with Ethan and Dave. How are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
Doing well.
Hey, Miranda.
You guys have some goofy callers.
Thank you.
I don't know how you do this, man. I don't know how you do it, bro.
Well, you know, the goal is to actually get these people who have more obscure or wild claims to just think about their belief system more, because a lot of these people live.
Yeah, but it's pretty hard to get through to those people.
Yeah, but you know what? A lot of us were some of those people before. I was that angry Republican Christian. You know, I was a very different person. So
yeah, me too.
And granted, I wasn't as extreme as some of these people, but I would rather believe that, you know, through the right questioning, we can get through to most people.
They don't go to doctors.
I think they realize that, and that's when they start going off the wall.
Yeah, they were pretty far out there if they don't go to doctors and stuff.
The hard questions is when they start really losing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like when she wouldn't answer your question earlier, you know, it's like, come on.
That's where I do get frustrated, is when it's like you ask someone a direct question, they're just, it's like that cognitive dissonance sets in, and they know that if they answer it, it makes them look bad, and then they look for a way out of it.
Right.
It's frustrating.
Well, the frustrating default position for me with Christians, and I really get tired of it, and I won't accept it anymore. I'll call bullshit every time, is when they just throw up their arms and say, well, there are just some things we can't understand, and that we'll never understand this side of heaven. That's just fucking bullshit. Right. Hey, I went over an hour without dropping the F-bomb.
You're fine. You dropped the F-bomb. You're good.
Wow.
Friendly doesn't mean no swear words. So, anyways, Miranda, what do you got for us?
Well, okay, so my grandmother, I lived with her as she was dying when I was in my early 20s, and she was 87 when she passed away. And her entire life, she was raised her children, my father and her other children, and tried to raise her grandchildren, meaning me, to be like the Bible banging Christian, you know, like Billy Graham type of, you know, that type of Christian. And at the end of her life, when she knew how sick she really was, and she was just suffering, and they said she could still suffer like this for a long week or more. And through communicating with her as best as she could, she communicated to me that she wanted me to give her basically all of her medication so she could just go to sleep and not wake up. And I did that for her. And at the end of her life, after having all these beliefs that she probably never felt that it would come to that, when it finally came to that, she realized, like, just, you know, God isn't taking me. God is letting me suffer. And if I can get out of this suffering and you're willing to help me, please help me.
Yeah. That's the thing. When it doesn't really affect you personally, it's just theory. Right. Like with Ashley and Edith, just a bunch of theory and theology until it affects them personally. And then, like your grandmother, you know, it becomes a different ball game.
Right. And exactly. I just want to make sure I heard you correctly. Did you say you did give your grandma the medicine?
Yeah.
So okay.
That's merciful.
I gave her the medicine, and she passed away within 20 minutes.
And she wanted you to?
Yes.
Yeah, so she changed her mind when it affected her personally, is what I heard you say. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That's my point. When you know, it's fine to argue these points in theory, but when it affects you personally, that's why I like to put a face to it. When I challenge people like Amy and Ashley, and to look them in the eye and say, you're saying that I should have to die a slow, painful, suffering death. That's what you're saying. And when you make it personal like that, it gets a little more difficult to look someone in the eye and say, yes, I want you to suffer until you die.
That's why I thought it was funny when Ethan said, I have to call bullshit about the fact that you would not take your children to the doctor if they were sick.
Well, because, I mean, seriously, like, who is going to sit there, except a complete psychopath, and look at their children who are suffering?
I'm getting the feeling that those women would.
Like, but
that's why I'm saying they don't even have any.
And CPS, DCFS should be called in that case.
Yeah, they should not be allowed to have children.
I'm curious.
It is neglect. It's neglect, and
it's. And I
sorry.
And I
applaud you for doing that, Miranda, because I'm thinking that took a lot of courage on your part, and it was not easy for you to do that.
No, it really wasn't, but I just felt like deep in my heart that it was the right thing to do, and I felt like, why would I let her suffer another 2 weeks for no reason? If it just seemed like such an easy answer. Like, of course, if this is what she wants, why wouldn't I do it?
Mm-hmm. But technically, she took it herself, so you're not an accomplice. Let's be careful here.
Okay, I'm already treading on real hot water right now. So
let's be careful. And shout out to Kristen. Kristen, you don't miss a thing. I love you, darling. You're awesome. Kristen Frogan, all the way over in Sweden. She's just the best ever. Best name ever. And probably the best person ever.
Yes. Anyways, Miranda, I do want to thank you for calling in and sharing your story, especially on assisted suicide / death with dignity, because I'm on the same side as Dave. I see no reason why we should be opposed to it. And in fact, my position has actually slightly changed from the roundtable that I had with Dave. And it was as a result of the Sassy Heathen, because I was opposed to assisted suicide when it came to depression at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And the more I factored it in and thought about it and looked into it, the more I'm like, I actually can't say I'm against it anymore when it comes to people who have severe depression and anxiety. Because for me, when I had like a horrible event mentally, now granted, I'm glad nothing happened, but if that period of how I felt was permanent, kill me. That's no way. Nobody should have to live with suicidal ideation all day to the point that they're like crying and shaking. Like that should that's cruel. We shouldn't let anybody suffer. So,
well, the point of all of this is that we lose sight of something that I think is very important. And it's this. It's not about how long we live. It's about how well we live. And that may sound like a cliche.
Exactly. That's very true, though.
It's really true. And if we're insisting that people have to live a miserable life as long as they possibly can, why are we insisting that for someone else? That's, first of all, it's not my place to do that. Quality of life, exactly, Sassy Heathen. Quality of life is what's important. It's the quality, not the.
Well, and why not just let people choose that between themselves and their doctor, make it legal, and then it doesn't affect anyone else. It's not affecting you or I if somebody chooses.
Yeah, the argument
legal between them and their doctor, then let them do that. That's their own life.
And their loved ones. You got people in your life, you wanna like, I've got my partner Bevan, and so it's not just me deciding, oh, I think I'm done. I wanna be able to say, well, what about how does that going to make her feel? I factor that into it. It's not just my life; it's the people around me. And it's just it's important that we don't enforce. And this slippery slope argument to me is bullshit. These people say, well, everybody's just going to be killing themselves. Oh, come on.
That happen.
Yeah, you actually want to do that. That's ridiculous.
Anyways,
well, the medical field already recognizes, obviously, when people are sick, they put them in palliative care and hospice, and it's all about to make the person comfortable. Right. So if they're willing to do all of that, then why wouldn't they just be willing to let that patient decide what they want to do?
Yeah. Why are we forcing this? I mean, nursing homes are filled with people who are ready to go. They are done, and
right.
They'll let them.
Miranda, I want to thank you for
Absolutely.
taking the time to call in, and we got to move on to our next caller. So I appreciate
Yeah.
you sharing
Well,
your
thank you guys.
Thank you, Miranda.
Have a good night.
You too.